What's going on, guys? This is Bunny Muffins. We have the meta snapshot for patch 12.14b. There was a small B patch. They nerfed like a couple of things: Aurelion Sol, Astral, Shyvana, Sylas, Jinx, and they buffed Talon slightly. All in all, it did not change things that much. It just made it so Aurelion Sol wasn't completely dominating every game. Now it's just good instead of completely dominating. So there are actually lots of options in the S tier this time. So starting off, we have Cannoneer Corki, Ragewing Shyvana, Mirage Daeja, and Astral Aurelion Sol. I still think Corki's the best just because he's a little more consistent. If you compare him to like the Shyvana build or the Aurelion Sol build, those are 10 cost dragons, and those, you can't get them every single game. Corki, you pretty much can. A tier, we have Jade, Sett, Reroll. Sett Reroll is back, which is pretty interesting. We have the Shin from Fast Nining and Bruiser Varus. Bruiser Varus, I think, is a little underrated this patch. I think a lot of people have it in kind of like the B-ish tier, but I think it actually belongs in the A tier right now. Just because it is easier to get because there are fewer Astral players. So before, like, a lot of your Astral units were being stolen, but now since it's being played a bit less, Varus is allowed to shine a little more. Now in the B tier, we have Whispers, Olaf Reroll, Bruiser Mage Sy'phen, Xayah, Swain Reroll, and Revel Cannoneer. Sy'phen's still pretty good. There are a lot of Sy'phen Corki builds which are in the Corki build up here, and then there's like the regular Sy'phen builds that we saw in the past. Just decent, nothing like too crazy. C tier, this is the do not plays, or at least like try not to play them that much. Yone, Talon, Nami, Shapeshifter, Nidalee, Volibear, Ryze, Dragonmancer, Kayn Reroll, Diana Reroll, and Ezreal Reroll, along with a bunch of other stuff down here. And then I moved stuff to the other section because these are all augment dependent, and these builds change up quite a bit depending on what you hit during the game. Now that we've gone over the summary of the tier list, let's get into how to play the composition. So starting off at the top in the S tier, Corki Cannoneer, I think this is the best comp right now. You have one with Sy'phen up front, you have one with Idis up front, I've seen Xiao up front, and there's not really too much special to it. It's the same backline, or almost the same backline. You have at least Sona and Corki for Revel, and then Lulu, Tristana, Bard to get you Cannoneer, Mystic, Evoker, and like pretty much all that good stuff. You also get Trainer as well. Namzi did get a slight adjustment in the B patch, but Namzi's still good. Sylas is going to be our main tank. Sy'phen, the weird part about this build is that Sy'phen can take either offensive or defensive items. It doesn't really matter because you are less reliant on Sy'phen to carry, more reliant on the Corki and the Sona. Bard and Lulu are pretty much just the two best units of the set right now. They're played in almost every composition. And yeah, whenever you have 2 extra slots available that you can flex, you're generally going to put in Lulu and Bard. The way to play this comp, you just do standard leveling. So in case you guys didn't know, I released a leveling guide before. I'll leave a card up here in case you guys want to check that out in more detail. But moving on into the next composition, we have the Shyvana Ragewing build. So this one is a little weird. Shyvana, honestly, she's a 10 cost unit. You're not going to get ideal items on her, so I do recommend some items. It's mainly just AP and tank items. Leaning more towards the AP items, but you don't need these exact items. So don't like build these items that you see on Shyvana in the early game hoping that you're going to hit her later. You're just going to build solid items, and if you hit Shyvana, you hit her, and then you put whatever you can on her. So I have a list of potential Shyvana items that you could check out down here. Many things work on her. She just does it all, you know? It's like a 10 cost unit, so that's why she does a lot. Nico's going to be your main tank, but you're also going to be running 6 Ragewing in order to buff everyone up. But weirdly enough, even though Xayah is like normally a carry in the Ragewing build, I'm making like a special distinction between her because she is not the main carry in this composition. I see some people, they put like Thieves Gloves on Xayah just to get rid of items because Xayah, again, is not the main star of the show right now. She is more of a supporting cast. I like throwing in Jade because you're already running Nico and Gnar for Shapeshifter, so you just put an Ashe to buff up the Xayah, but if you get a Soraka, you could put Soraka instead of Ashe. And it's just standard leveling with this build. You're going to be using everyone else to carry you on into the late game. And if you hit Shyvana, those are the games where you're going to try to aim for like 1st or 2nd place. If you don't, you're probably going to be relying on a Xayah carry, and that's perfectly fine too. It's just going to be harder to break into these upper ranks unless you get the legendary units that you so desperately need. Oh yeah, and you could also use Swain as like a pretty decent item holder because he could hold both the Xayah items and the Shyvana items pretty well. On to the next build, we have Mirage. You could also do the Mirage Guild build as well. I see mainly people doing one with the more Cavalier-focused build, so like the Sejuani and the Hecarim are used a lot. Daeja uses pretty much any item as well, similar to the Shyvana, except mainly more focused on attack speed and ability power. I have a lot of item recommendations down here. So the way you play this comp is you do standard leveling, and then once you hit level 8, you want to slow roll for Nunu 3-star, and you also get Yasuo and Bard oftentimes when you do that. And once you get Bard, he hopefully gives you better odds to hit everything else, so you should end up being able to either 2-star the legendaries and 4-cost or 3-star the Nunu, hopefully in most of your games there. I also have like a short list on every single Mirage variant, so you guys can check that out if you want to adjust your build slightly based on the type of Mirage you're facing. All of this can be found on my website at bunnymuffins.lol/meta, so bookmark that site, do whatever you need to do in order to kind of like use it for reference, only if you want to. So now onto the Astral build. So before you would toggle in 6 and 9 Astrals in order to get the 9 Astral benefits, but they nerfed Astrals by a lot, especially like the 9 Astral rewards, so you're just going to be playing 6 now. It's still good because Astral still does a lot of stuff. Astral did get a nerf as well, but I still see a lot of high challenger players doing well with this. I see a lot of people doing well across the other elos with this, so it's still a solid build. It's just not the by far best build anymore. It's just like still in the S tier, but like the lower part of the S tier, so it's still really fine and dandy. So just keep playing that same as you did last week. Onto the next tier, we have A tier. So Jade took a step down. I used to have this in the S tier, but I feel like everything else is just slightly better. There are a lot of new comps in the S tier this week. Or I shouldn't say new comps, there are just a lot of comps in general in the S tier. But for the Jade comp, the only weird part is that all the people who are playing Shyvana, they're taking your Neeko, so it's harder to play this comp, which is weird because Neeko actually is one of the main stars, despite Xiaoyu being like the main carry. Neeko tankiness is like worth a lot because she just stalls out the game really long, allowing for people like Anivia to even shine or like the rest of your team. Some people call this the Soy comp because it's just S-O-Y. So if you guys have heard that names from other people, that is where the name comes from. It's just from Xiaoyu. So what's great about this comp is that it's like pretty flexible because you only have 7 slots that are needed. So you do have an extra flex slot. A lot of people play like a random Yasuo just because Yasuo is really good. But what I like about it is that if you get a random augment that gives you like +1 in a certain synergy, you could always add on another unit to that synergy in order to like make full use of it in this build because you do have that flex spot. Not a lot of comps have that, so this is like one of the, I'd say, like special situations where it helps out a ton. Xiaoyu items generally is mainly damage. A lot of sword items are really good on Xiaoyu. Titans is my favorite item and Bloodthirster, but a lot of other things can work as well. You could go like full damage if you really wanted to, but I do like the healing item. Neeko, just full tank. Warmogs is the most important because she is a shapeshifter. Next build, we have Sett Ragewing. So we have not seen Sett in a long time. Sett is pretty interesting, right? Because Shyvana is really good, so you could play Sett into a Shyvana and then like kind of just use that to buy you time in order to reach level 9 or level 8 to roll down for Shyvana with a lot of gold. So that's why people are playing this comp right now. You play it the same as before. You just reroll for Sett 3-star at level 5, and then you try to power level to fast 9 or fast 8 in order to get Shyvana. 6 or 9 Ragewing is fine. So if you want to do 6, you could take out like Senna, you could take out maybe Xayah or Hecarim or Shen. Any one of the 3 Ragewings you will do. You kind of want to keep Swain because it gives Shapeshifter for Shyvana, so if you do end up hitting Shyvana, that's what you'll be playing. But yeah, Sett's still a monster, and he uses pretty similar items to before. It's like QSS, Rageblade, and then either Titan's Resolve, Giant Slayer, or anything of that nature. Onto the next build, we have Shin Tempest build. This is the one with Shin carry in the late game, fast 9ing. A little more options now, because when you're fast 9ing, you don't only have to go for Shin, because the Archangel Staff works for most of the big late game dragons. It works for Astral, it works for Shyvana, it works for Shin, so all of them work pretty well with it. You don't have to play Shin, but it is a more like popular option for this like build of the comp, I would say. The reason is because you're using Ornn, so that gives you the electrocute people. And then Zoe's a great late game, Bard's a great late game because you're reaching level 9 fast, you're probably going to hit them. And then you line it up with 3 mages, so Sylas and Heimerdinger, so Zoe casts twice, and then Bard's just good on his own. You could always pair it with a Lulu, as people normally do, because as I said before, if you have spare slots on your team, Bard Lulu, you can never go wrong with that. The only downside of this comp is you need good HP to play it, because if you do fast 9 and you're like lowest health in the game, you're not going to make it to Fast 9. So try to recognize the games where you can go for it and the ones where you can't. Onto the next build, we have Varus Bruiser. Again, I think this is like a pretty underrated build for this patch. Some people like adding in the Lulu Bard combo, but they also add in Heimerdinger because you're running in Sylas, so you could get mages in as well with Nami instead of Skarner. So you could get like 3 Astral, 3-star the Nami, 3-star the Varus, and then still get mages in with Heimerdinger and Sylas. And then you just run Sylas Illaoi frontline as your main dudes and then support units for the rest of your team. Both versions are good. It really depends what you're hitting that game. A lot of times the Astral players are taking all the Namis, so sometimes it's hard to get Nami if there are too many people going for Astral. So that's why I try to give you guys a couple of different options here in order to play the Bruiser Varus comp. But it's pretty easy to play. You just go to level 7, reroll for Varus 3, or you play 6 Astral and reroll at stage like 4-1 or 4-2 at level 6. So you could do either or. If you're 3 Astral, do it at level 7. If you're 6 Astral, do it at level 6. But yeah, any 3 tank items on Illaoi or Sylas will do, whoever you get. If both your Illaoi and your Sylas are 2-starred, put the items on Sylas. If Illaoi's 3-star, put it on Illaoi. Onto the next build, we have the B tier. We have the Elise or Sy'phen Whispers. This is pretty much like the main Sy'phen build, but I give you guys the option to reroll for Elise if you guys want to. Reroll Elise is actually pretty underrated in my opinion. I don't think that many people play Elise. She's more of like a hipster champ. But Sy'phen, of course, is just the regular old BT QSS Titans in the front line. What I love about this build, I think I've said this before, but Elise and Sy'phen share a lot of the same items. So if you do like all your items on one item holder, you just wait for whoever you hit first 2-star, Sy'phen or Elise, and then put the items on them. Of course, like Sy'phen 2 is better than Elise 2, but Elise 3 is very strong on her own, so you could go for either or on that. So sometimes if you get an item remover, by the time you get onto the Treasure Dragon, it's sometimes useful to have in case you want to swap the items around a bit. Next build we have is Olaf Reroll. This is same old as before. Go to level 7, reroll. I would really only play this though if you have Assassin Spatula for Olaf. It's pretty critical because the comp is like infinitely weaker without it, so yeah, I wouldn't really play it without it. It's just, yeah, not that worth it. There are much better comps to go for if you don't have it. Onto the next build, we have Bruiser, Mage, Sy'phen. Very similar to the other Sy'phen build, except instead of running for Elise, you just run like a lot of support units. You have the 3 mages, Heimerdinger, Zoe, and Sylas. So Sylas main tank, Zoe, lots of CC and utility. Heimerdinger gives a stun, and it gives you Namzi, so you get the Lulu Bard combo anyways. And then Sona, just for more CC on your team, and she gives you Evoker for Lulu. So just really solid comp overall, similar to the other Sy'phen build that we saw. But if you don't get a lot of offensive items, like you guys notice up here, we have like a bunch of items on both Elise and Sy'phen. Let's say you don't get a lot of attack damage items, then you'd go for like the other build. Onto the next one, we have Xayah Ragewing or Guild Xayah. So Xayah is just much weaker than Corki, for example. It's unfortunate. You really are only playing Xayah if you're going for the Shyvana build. So yeah, there's not really too much else to say there, in my opinion. Xayah, she's like okay-ish on her own. She's not going to win you that many games unless you get Shyvana. But she's not going to like lose you every game either, if that makes sense. So she's kind of just like mediocre forecast right now. It's just not your first choice. But if you hit a free Xayah 2, why not go for this build? Next one, we have Swain Dragonmancer. This one's with reroll Swain. Not the biggest fan of reroll Swain, but I have seen it work every now and then. Out of all the 3-cost rerolls for the Dragonmancer, so you have Lee Sin and Volibear and Swain, I'd say Swain is the strongest one right now, so I'm keeping him in the B tier, but Lee and Volibear are definitely in the C right now. Last build we have up is the Tristana reroll build. I still think it's pretty solid. You could play Idis instead of Tahm Kench as well. Tristana is just a very good unit. Cannoneers are just very strong, and you're still running Corki, and sometimes you just hit Corki 2 anyway, so it's pretty much just another Corki build, but you have the option to reroll for Tristana early on. That's going to be it for the B tier. We're not really going to go over the C tier because it's just much better options to do. But if you guys really want to play those comps, of course, I still leave them up on my website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta. So you guys can check that out on your own time if you want to just have like a quick reference on what to play for those comps. But yeah, pretty interesting patch so far. I think the B patch was really good. The first week of the patch, I would say a lot of complaints. Probably not the most fun experience for most people. They actually banned the Astral toggling component in a competitive tournament last weekend. So it's interesting that they finally removed it in the game, but that definitely did solve a lot of the issue. But yeah, hopefully you guys have fun on this patch. By the way, I want to let you guys know next patch, so not this patch, but next patch, I want to do like a coaching video compilation. So I need games at every single rank, Iron through Diamond. So if you guys want to get your game reviewed by me, go ahead and send me a Discord DM. Not now. If you send it now, I'm not going to do anything with it. But on the next patch, play a game, upload the game to YouTube, preferably with sound, and then send it over to me. And you might be able to get onto one of my next videos because I'll be reviewing one game from every single elo. And I'm just going to pick the best example of a game where I think the most learning opportunities can come from. So sorry if I don't pick yours in that time. But I'll remind you guys of this when I do the patch preview for 12.15. So again, don't send anything now. Wait till next patch. I just want to let you guys know beforehand in case you guys want to like download recording software or anything like that. But yeah, and let me know what you guys think of this week's patch down in the comments below. And of course, subscribe if you have not already. But that is going to be it from me. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and I will see you all later. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and of course smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.